Tonight, on First at 9 this Sunday, the 22nd of June 2025. Uncle Sam's Gambit. The United States enters the Middle Eastern Russian roulette by striking Iran's main nuclear sites with massive bunker-buster bombs. Warmongering administration in Washington, D.C., solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences, warns Iran. Right to fight. Russia ready to mediate peace between Iran and Israel, says Russian envoy in Sri Lanka. Emphasizes that Iran has the right to pursue a peaceful nuclear program. Pricey makeover. The North Central Provincial Council's expensive renovations on 53 flood-damaged roads in 2011 uncovered by the Committee on Public Accounts. Starved soil. Uncertainty looms over Yala season's paddy cultivation as farmers in Polonnaruwa and Anuradhapura grapple with fertilizer shortage. Traders hiding stocks in a bid to earn windfall profits from possible price fluctuations, claims Agriculture Deputy Minister.
Cinec Campus Open Day. මේ මාස 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, on your top story tonight, the United States struck 3 nuclear sites in Iran early today, inserting itself into Israel's war aimed at destroying Iran's nuclear program in a risky gambit to weaken a long-time foe despite fears of a wider regional conflict. US President Donald Trump said he had obliterated Iran's main nuclear sites in strikes overnight with massive bunker-busting bombs with the aid of the US Air Force's B-2 bombers. However, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi condemned the US strikes on the country's nuclear facilities and stated that the warmongering administration in Washington, D.C. is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences to follow.
As the conflict between Israel and Iran continues for a 10th consecutive day, the United States entered the Russian roulette of the Middle East by striking 3 nuclear sites in Iran today. The fresh strikes came off after President Donald Trump gave a 2-week period prior to a decision on whether to engage in the ongoing conflict. The Iranian nuclear sites, including Fordo, Natanz, and the largest Iranian uranium enrichment facilities, and Isfahan, Iran's largest nuclear research complex. According to President Trump, the attack on Iranian nuclear sites were carried off by the US Air Force B-2 bombers by using a special bomb famously known as the bunker buster. Furthermore, President Trump revealed that the bunker buster bomb is a 30,000-pound bomb with 6,000 pounds of explosives designed for reaching and destroying adversaries' weapons of mass destruction located in well-protected facilities. The MOP bomb was lastly used in a mission in Afghanistan in 2021. Following the announcement of the US strikes on Iran, President Trump addressed the nation.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. That the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. This cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days.
In the aftermath of the attack, the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization said the bombing of the 3 nuclear sites was a barbaric violation of international law. Both Saudi Arabia and the UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, say there has been no increase in radiation levels after the attack. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu congratulated his ally President Trump on the attack.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime.
According to the Iranian state media, Iranian officials have confirmed the attacks and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi condemned the US strikes on the country's nuclear facilities. Following the attack, the Iranian Foreign Minister addressed a press conference in Istanbul.
The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression. There is no red line that they have not crossed, and the last one and the most dangerous one by attacking nuclear facilities.
The Iranian Foreign Minister also spoke on his upcoming meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin.
Well, I'm going to Moscow this afternoon, and I have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow morning. Russia is a friend of Iran. Well, I will have serious consultations with the Russian president tomorrow, and we continue to work with each other.
As the United States made its way to the Middle East region conflict, the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres said he was gravely alarmed by the US strike and warning against further escalation. In the meantime, leaders from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, India and the EU called on Iran to show restraint and return to the negotiating table to reach a diplomatic solution. In stark contrast, Yemeni Houthis announced today that it will target US ships in the Red Sea if Washington becomes involved in Israeli attacks on Iran. However, after the US strikes on the Iran's nuclear sites, Iran and Israel continued to exchange more fresh attacks, dramatically escalating tensions in the Middle East. Foreign media reported that Iran launched 2 volleys of 27 missiles targeting Israel's main Ben Gurion airport near Tel Aviv, research facilities and command centers. Israeli Health Minister reported 86 people were admitted to hospital with injuries. The Israeli military also carried out another wave of bombings on military targets in western Iran, stating its strike destroyed Iranian missile launchers and targeted soldiers. Currently, the death toll in Israel is estimated up to 24, while the death toll in Iran by Israeli strikes have increased up to 400. Amid the incessant attacks, flights are currently being operated from Amman, Jordan to New Delhi airport to repatriate Indian nationals as requested by Indian government. Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel, Nimal Bandara, informed Sri Lankans in Israel that those wishing to travel to Colombo via New Delhi using this route should visit the embassy and register. In the meantime, the 4 Sri Lankans who entered Egypt via the TABA border to travel to Colombo were detained, and among them, several Sri Lankans who did not have valid Israel visas were kept for interrogations. However, with the intervention of the Sri Lankan embassy in Egypt, the Sri Lankans were able to successfully reach the Cairo airport. Meanwhile, 4 Sri Lankans who were in Iran, as tensions ramped up, returned to Sri Lanka, while 4 more are expected to arrive within the coming days. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that 34 Sri Lankans are still in Iran and 15 of them have expressed their willingness to return to Sri Lanka. However, the ministry further stated that no notification has been made regarding the departure of the remaining 19 Sri Lankans from Iran.
And on the same topic, Russian ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Levan Ezragarian, states that Israel attacked Iran a day before scheduled negotiations between Iran and the United States on Iran's nuclear program. Speaking on our current affairs program at Hyde Park with Indivari Amwatha, the Russian envoy to Sri Lanka said that Iran has the right to pursue a peaceful nuclear program. He added that Russia is prepared to mediate peace talks between Israel and Iran, but that Israel is currently unwilling to engage in such discussions.
Russia has historically maintained firm diplomatic channels with Israel, and at the same time President Vladimir Putin said Russia is ready to mediate a peace deal between Israel and Iran, suggesting a framework that allows Iran to maintain peaceful nuclear program while addressing Israel's security concerns.
In 2015, 5+1, USA, Russia, China, France, Germany and UK started negotiations, very long negotiations with Iran about the Iranian nuclear program, and we managed to strike a deal, JCPOA, in 2015. It was a very good deal, and partially some sanctions against Iran were lifted. Western companies started to come to Iran, and there was a good possibility to develop Iranian peaceful nuclear program, and the process of enrichment of Iranian uranium was limited. President Trump came to power and decided to withdraw from this JCPOA in 2018, despite the fact that JCPOA was endorsed by the United Nations Security Council resolution 2231. But he decided to withdraw, and now he's talking about a new deal. And the Iranians said, we are ready. And there were several rounds of non-direct negotiations between Iran and USA, thanks to Omani mediation. The next round was set in Oman for June 15, and Israel started attacking Iran a day before. I don't agree with Iranians wanting to attack Israel or to use nuclear weapons. Iran, unlike some other nuclear powers, those who have it but didn't declare it officially, they have joined non-proliferation treaty. The number of countries who possess this nuclear weapon should be increased. It's very dangerous. But Iran has right to have peaceful nuclear program, and we help Iranians. We are ready to mediate between Iran and Israel, and my president was in touch with Benjamin Netanyahu and with Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian. But I'm not sure that Israelis are ready to do it, unfortunately.
But the question about Russia as a mediator, there is also a question whether there's credibility, especially with the kind of engagements, the military operation with Ukraine.
I think it has nothing to do with our special military operation in Ukraine. We just clearly said we don't want to see threat close to our borders. Can you imagine Russian missiles close to American territory? And once again, we don't pose any threat to NATO countries, and we are not afraid of anything, of any other country. We are strong enough. We are a nuclear power. It's very important to keep in mind it is impossible to defeat nuclear power. We are ready to normalize our relations with European countries, but if they want it, they must take the initiative.
Now, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, is expected to arrive in Sri Lanka for an official visit tomorrow. This will be the first visit by a High Commissioner for Human Rights to Sri Lanka since February 2016. During the visit, the High Commissioner will meet the President and the Prime Minister. He will also hold meetings with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism and the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. As part of the program, the High Commissioner will travel to Kandy, where he will pay homage to the Temple of the Tooth Relic and meet the chief prelates of the Asgiri and Malvatu chapters. The visit will also focus on important discussions on further advancing the promotion and protection of human rights and reconciliation in line with the government's continued constructive engagement with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Cinec Campus Open Day, May masa 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Now, moving on to your local political developments, through a series of secret ballots, the National People's Power has so far managed to secure power in 41 of the 178 local councils where no party or alliance has a majority. With this, the NPP now governs a total of 192 local government institutions, while the opposition alliance led by the Samaga Janabala Vege has taken control of 22 councils, the majority of which were determined through open ballots. As the government and the joint opposition struggle to consolidate power within several remaining local government councils, let's take a look at the latest political thoughts shared on the matter today.
The SJP succeeded in securing leadership in a majority of local government bodies where open ballots were conducted. However, attempts were made by the incumbent government to interfere with the standard electoral process. Despite these efforts, we managed to gain control in 53 local councils as a part of the joint opposition. If secret ballots were not held, the government would only have been able to secure half of the local governments they won. The use of secret ballots is consistent with democratic principles. Some candidates prefer to not follow direct instructions from party leadership, which is why they advocated for secret ballots. In that context, secret ballots serve to uphold democratic integrity. This government is now calling for secret ballots not to ensure fairness, but to obscure backroom political arrangements. As the opposition, we are prepared to pursue legal action against this matter.
රට ගන්න කට්ටියට මුලින් ඔබතුමාලා කිව්වේ ඡන්දෙ දෙන්න එපා මුන් හොරු කියලානේ කිව්වේ.
ඒ පක්ෂනේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ.
Our remarks were directed at political parties, not individuals. Is it not possible for capable and principled individuals to be part of the UNP, the SLFP or the SLPP? Our intention is to collaborate with individuals of integrity regardless of party affiliations in order to advance our political agenda constructively.
Now, addressing the same topic, the leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, MP Dilith Jayavira, says that the current government has no desire to establish a corruption-free political culture in the country, as evidenced by the secret ballots held when establishing power in local government institutions. He further claims that though the NPP rose to power by posing as a pure political entity, it stained its reputation by allying itself with parties deemed to be corrupt.
In the lead-up to the local government polls of 2025, the Sarvajana Balaya promised to set up Sarvajana Sabhas across local government jurisdictions in a bid to address issues ailing citizens in the grassroots. Accordingly, the Sarvajana Sabha of the Beliyatha Mahahila division was established this afternoon under the patronage of Sarvajana Balaya's leader, Member of Parliament Dilith Jayavira.
දැන් මේ රටේ මිනිස්සු සමහරට ඔබත් විටක හිතන්නට ඇති.
People of this country, including you, may have thought that simply ending corrupt politics would be enough to take the country forward. We must indeed put an end to corrupt politics. But in doing so, we must also have a clear plan to move the nation ahead. This government is deeply corrupt. They are continuing the corrupt practices of previous governments in a different manner. These corrupt individuals must be held accountable and sent to prison, otherwise there will be no end to this. That much is true. But the issue arises when this process itself is carried out with a corrupt mindset and based on lies. The real problem is when a government continues to rule the country through deception. In this long history of corruption, have you ever seen such a farce being conducted to form local government councils? Is there a political party left with which the so-called pure national people's power hasn't made deals? Not a single one. We are aware of how our own party's councillors were approached with monetary offers and other perks. Would a government that genuinely wishes to save the country behave in such a manner? Just think, why do they want a secret ballot? They want it because only then can the person bribe vote for the party that bribed him. They have no real interest in ending the corruption they once criticized. Through the establishment of the Sarvajana Sabha, we aim to set an example on how to rely on one's own strength and how to truly work towards saving the country.
උදාහරණයක් ලබා දෙනවා මේ ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සුන්ට මෙන්න මෙහෙමයි රටගොඩ ගන්න කියලා.
Now, in other local news, farmers in Polonnaruwa and Anuradhapura claim that for close to 2 weeks, persistent fertilizer shortage has gripped paddy cultivation in the two districts, raising concerns over the ability to reap a sufficient harvest this Yala season. However, Deputy Minister of Agriculture Namal Karunaratne disagreed with the assessment made by the farmers and revealed that a facade of a fertilizer shortage has been created by certain traders who are expecting to make a windfall profit out of the fertilizer price fluctuation expected in the global market.
For over 50 days, farmers in the Polonnaruwa district have been engaging in paddy cultivation with the advent of the Yala season. However, these farmers have raised concern regarding the shortage of fertilizer integral for paddy cultivation. They further note that as a result of this impending shortage, fertilizer is traded at exorbitant prices. Similar grievances over the lack of fertilizer in the local market were aired by farmers of the Anuradhapura district as well. Certain farmers particularly claim that a shortage of urea fertilizer has persisted for about 2 weeks. Facts alleged by farmers concerning the shortage of fertilizer, particularly urea, were corroborated by merchants trading fertilizer in the local market. These traders claim that they are not receiving adequate stocks to meet the quantity of fertilizer demanded. Concerning the gravity of the situation, farming communities urged for government intervention. However, Deputy Minister of Agriculture Namal Karunaratne disagrees with the allegations levelled by the farming community and asserts that there is no room for a fertilizer shortage to persist.
There's no way for Sri Lanka to have a shortage of fertilizer. Recently, I convened a meeting attended by officials attached to the National Fertilizer Secretariat, officials of this ministry and executives of fertilizer companies. There's no shortage of fertilizer. Global fertilizer prices are expected to increase in the near future. future. Therefore, some traders assume that the next batch of fertilizer to be imported will be imported at a higher rate. We have received information that certain traders have hidden away stocks of fertilizer in certain areas to make a profit off of expected price fluctuations in the future. Fertilizer cannot be sold at exorbitant prices. We have reached an agreement on that fact. If this agreement is breached or if fertilizer is sold at exorbitant prices, the government has decided to take strict legal action against those involved.
Now in other news, the Ceylon Electricity Board announced that starting from June 16th, it has introduced higher tariffs for battery-backed rooftop solar systems. According to the CEB, the CEB now offers 45 rupees and 80 cents per kilowatt hour for energy exported during the night peak period from 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. under this new tariff scheme. In addition, CEB stated that the revised tariffs under the standardized power purchase agreements support further diversification of renewable energy sources. These include fixed 20-year rates for technologies such as mini hydro, wind, ground-mounted solar, floating solar and municipal solid waste-based power generation. These policy measures are intended to balance affordability for consumers, ensure viable returns for investors and promote the long-term sustainability of Sri Lanka's clean energy transition. Now, in a rather unfortunate local development, a fatal bus accident claiming lives of 3 individuals took place yesterday evening near the Dunhinda area along the Badulla Mayangana main road. Police investigations into the matter revealed that one of the passengers on board had been behind the wheel at the time of the tragic accident instead of the designated driver. Meanwhile, Department of Motor Traffic is scheduled to conduct an on-site investigation into the accident tomorrow morning.
A tragic road accident occurred at around 6 p.m. yesterday at the 4th mile post near Dunhinda along the Badulla Mahiyangana main road when a private bus overturned. The vehicle was carrying a group of devotees who had just completed their visit to the sacred Muthiyangana temple. Just 4 kilometers into their return journey, the bus reportedly veered off the road, collided with an electric pole and overturned. Upon learning of the incident, medical teams from the Badulla Teaching Hospital responded immediately, rushing to the site to provide medical assistance. A total of 36 injured passengers were admitted to the Badulla General Hospital. However, the bus accident tragically claimed the lives of 3 people, including a minor. According to the hospital sources, 31 passengers are receiving treatment at the moment. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Tourism, Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe, visited the hospital later the evening to check on the condition of the injured and extended support to the affected families. Further investigations by the Badulla police uncovered a critical detail. At the time of the accident, the bus was not being operated by its assigned driver. Instead, a pilgrim who was on board, identified as a conductor of the Sri Lanka Transport Board with a valid heavy vehicle license, had taken the wheel. Reportedly, the original driver had stepped away to visit a nearby shop when the need arose to move the bus to clear a path for another vehicle. With the driver's verbal consent, the person had proceeded to drive the bus forward. Unfortunately, the bus met with the fatal mishap while under his control. It has also been confirmed that both his wife and daughter were among the passengers of the overturned bus. Authorities noted that the accident occurred on a particularly treacherous stretch of road known for its steep gradients and sharp bends. Another fatal bus crash involving the Kotalavala Defence Academy took place near this location on the 1st of November last year. Despite repeated appeals from the Badulla Police to the Road Development Authority to implement safety measures on this hazardous route, no meaningful action has yet been taken. Meanwhile, several officers attached to the Department of Motor Traffic are scheduled to conduct an on-site investigation tomorrow morning.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, the World Bank Group approved a new $150 million program to support Sri Lanka's move towards clean, reliable and affordable energy. The program will support new solar and wind projects that will add 1 gigawatt of clean electricity to the grid, bringing Sri Lanka closer to its goal of generating 70% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2030. The program is also expected to mobilize more than $800 million in private investment, helping to lower electricity costs and improve reliability for families and businesses. The program also supports the upgrades to Sri Lanka's electricity grid, enabling it to better handle renewable energy and reduce power outages. In addition, the initiative will provide technical assistance to the CEB to strengthen planning, procurement and operations and support government-led reforms to improve competitiveness, utility management and regulatory oversight. Now, in some international business news, market analysts predict that the global oil is likely to rise by $3 to $5 per barrel when trading resumes later today, after the United States attacked Iran. Market analysts state that gains are expected to accelerate only if Iran retaliates hard and causes a major oil supply disruption. Analysts further say that global oil benchmark Brent crude could gain $3 to $4 per barrel when markets open. Analysts predict that the direction of oil prices will depend on whether there are supply disruptions, which would likely result in higher prices, or if there is a de-escalation in the conflict, resulting in a fading risk premium. Brent has risen by 11%, while WTI has gained around 10% since the conflict began on June 13th, with Israel targeting Iran's nuclear sites and Iranian missiles hitting buildings in Tel Aviv. Welcome back. Now, in other local news, the Committee on Public Accounts disclosed that the North Central Provincial Council carried out renovations on 53 roads damaged by floods in 2011, incurring a whopping overestimated cost of 1,170 million rupees. Further revelations emerged during the COPA hearing held yesterday, where officials from the North Central Provincial Councils confirmed that these road renovation projects were initiated without obtaining the required formal approvals.
Let me lay this out clearly. This road repair initiative, which was valued at over 3.5 billion rupees, had been fragmented into 741 sub-projects and registered at the Provincial Council with the intent of urgently repairing 53 roads damaged by floods. However, an independent analysis conducted by students of the engineering faculty of the University of Peradeniya back in 2013 flagged a potential cost of around 1.17 billion rupees. In which year was this project implemented? The project was launched around 2011 and 2012, specifically aimed at rehabilitating roads that sustained damage during the 2011 floods. Yes, the project started in 2011, but formal approval was granted on February 17, 2012. On that very day, 24 other projects got the green light. The letter reads that approval will be granted for the implementation of the following projects, considering the availability of funds and provisions from the Treasury. Out of the 58 roads identified as damaged, 53 were selected for repairs with a revised budgetary estimate set at a maximum of 5 million rupees. According to the available documentation and records, it appears that the project was indeed commenced before formal approval was granted. It should be noted that the 53 roads were subdivided into 741 individual project components. This pattern potentially indicates financial fraud executed under the guise of infrastructure development. Certain roads needed 6 inches of gravel to be reinforced, but estimates were prepared for 1.5 feet of gravel. Additionally, recommendations made by COPA in 2017 appear to have been deliberately disregarded, allegedly under the influence of political figures, namely Duminda Disanayaka and Veerakumara Disanayaka. In a COPA meeting of 2019, discussions reportedly took place to reverse these recommendations made in 2017. How many contractors were involved in this matter? There were 7 contractors involved in this matter. So the 741 sub-projects were distributed among these 7 contractors. Is it true that these companies did not meet the required standards? That is correct. The companies were not qualified.
එහෙම සුදුසුකම් නැති construction ආයතනයක් තෝරාගත්ත නිලධාරීන් කවුද කියලා අපිට අනාවරණය කරන්න පුළුවන්.
ඔව් පළාත් මාර්ග සංවර්ධන අධිකාරිය
The approvals were granted by the Provincial Road Development Authority. However, the then acting general manager has since passed away. Prior to his appointment at the PRDA, he was employed by the Mahavali Development Authority, where he was accused of using state machinery for unauthorized excavations in Polonnaruwa and Ampara in search of treasure. Legal proceedings were initiated against him and he was subsequently dismissed from that position. However, he managed to secure a position at the PRDA by suppressing these critical details. Who appointed him to that position? He was appointed by the former chairman of the PRDA. Do you recall his name? Unfortunately no, but his surname was Semasinghe.
Now in your world news brief, we bring to you a further escalation of the Middle Eastern conflict where US Secretary of State Marco Rubio today called on China to encourage Iran to not shut down the Strait of Hormuz after Washington carried out strikes on Iranian nuclear sites. Rubio's remarks came in response to a report by Iran's Press TV, which stated that the Iranian parliament had passed legislation authorizing the closure of the strait. Describing the measure as economic suicide for China, Rubio warned that such an action would inflict far greater damage on global economies than on the United States alone. He further cautioned that any attempt to block the strait would represent a significant escalation, likely prompting a forceful international response led by the US. The Chinese embassy in Washington has yet to issue a statement on the matter. Now in other local news, a hot air balloon caught fire and tumbled from the sky today in Brazil's southern state of Santa Catarina, claiming 8 lives and injuring 13 passengers. Brazilian authorities reported that the injured passengers were hospitalized after the incident. According to Brazilian firefighters, the fire had started in the basket, prompting the pilot to try to land the balloon. The firefighters further stated that 4 passengers have died inside the balloon, while the other 4 passengers have died by jumping out of the balloon. Governor of Santa Catarina said that Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva expressed their condolences to the victims' families. The latest tragic incident was the third involving a hot air balloon in Brazil in less than a week. A week ago, a balloon carrying 35 people, which did not have authorization to fly, fell off Sao Paulo, where 1 person died and the pilot was arrested. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.